Welcome to this explainer. I am genuinely so pumped to have you here today because, well, we're about to dive into this fascinating investigation into the hidden mechanics of success. Look, if you've ever looked at people who have achieved massive financial success and wondered, what secret formula they were handed, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're not looking at balance sheets, we aren't analyzing the stock market, and we are definitely not sitting here calculating compound interest. Instead, we're setting out to decode something much, much more profound. We're going to explore a very specific piece of source text that claims the true foundation of wealth actually isn't mathematical at all. It's entirely psychological. So get ready, because we are going to break down this text piece by piece and uncover the hidden blueprint inside it.
What actually separates wealth builders from everyone else? Think about that for a second. It's kind of the ultimate cold open mystery, isn't it? If we literally put two people in the exact same starting position, right? Same resources, same opportunities, why does one go on to build immense wealth while the other stays exactly where they started? The ideas we're unpacking today basically strip away all those usual excuses. They completely dismiss the idea of pure luck, they ignore inherited advantage, and they point us toward a single, honestly startling conclusion. There is a dividing line, like this invisible barrier that sorts people into two very distinct categories. And our mission in this explainer is to figure out exactly what that barrier is made of. Okay, let's dive right into this. The central thesis of our source text is super clear: why rich people think differently. And wow, this is a massive statement. It completely reframes the entire conversation. It tells us that wealth is first and foremost a matter of cognition. It's all about how your brain is actually wired to perceive resources, risks, and opportunities. The premise isn't that rich people act differently or work differently. Though those might definitely be byproducts. It boldly states that they think differently. By starting here, we're being asked to stop looking at all those external factors and start examining the internal engine. If you want to understand the output of wealth, you absolutely have to understand the input of thought.
Section 1. The psychology of money. Moving beyond mathematics.
So we are effectively entering a hidden world right here. So much of what we're taught about finances is rooted in basic arithmetic, right? Budgeting, saving, subtracting your expenses from your income. But to truly grasp this, we basically need to toss out the math textbook, pick up the psychology manual, and unpack the underlying mindset patterns and mental frameworks that govern how individuals perceive and interact with wealth. And I really want you to notice that focus on patterns. This implies that financial success isn't just, a random assortment of good thoughts. It's a structured, repeated, habitual way of viewing the world. The psychology of money dictates your emotional response to a financial setback. It dictates your courage when facing an investment opportunity and your long-term vision. It's basically the operating system running quietly in the background of literally every financial decision you make.
Let's move to Section 2, the Great Divide, wealth builders versus everyone else. Now, this brings us to an immediate core conflict. The framework we're exploring today doesn't shy away from creating a very, very stark contrast. There is absolutely no middle ground offered in this analysis. On one hand, we have wealth builders. Notice the active nature of that phrase. It implies construction, intentionality, ongoing effort. Wealth isn't something that just magically happens to them, it's something they actively build. On the other hand, we have everyone else, which is, kind of a broad catch-all term for the default state of society. The fundamental argument here is that wealth is driven by which side of the psychological divide your thoughts align with. It's practically a binary choice, entirely dictated by your mental habits. So the absolutely crucial point is this: the separation is purely psychological. I really want you to absorb this, because this right here is the decoded secret. The gap between the wealth builders and everyone else doesn't originate in some bank vault. Actually, scratch that. It doesn't originate anywhere physical at all. It originates purely in the mind. It is a completely invisible cognitive separation. If you try to cross the divide by merely changing what's in your bank account without actually changing your psychological framework, well, the implication is that you're going to be pulled right back to exactly where you started. The barrier is mental, which means the key to unlocking it must also be mental. Moving on to Section 3, decoding the patterns, unlocking the mindset of wealth.
Okay, so we've established that there's this psychological divide, and we know that thinking differently is the ultimate key. Now, we're shifting our narrative to the actual investigative process. We're going to treat this like we're uncovering this hidden, ancient blueprint that's literally just been sitting in plain sight all along. We can map out this three-step conceptual progression. Step 1, recognize the psychology of money. Basically, you first have to accept that money is a psychological game before you can even step on the field to play it. Step 2. Decode the mindset patterns. This is the active discovery phase, where you observe and analyze how successful people actually think. And finally, Step 3. Separate from everyone else. This is the ultimate goal. By adopting these decoded patterns, you naturally separate yourself from that default mindset of the crowd. And look, you cannot skip straight to Step 3. It absolutely requires doing the foundational work of those first 2 steps.
Let's quickly summarize the exact challenges the source text is throwing at us here. Think of these core directives as vital pieces of the psychological puzzle we're trying to solve. First, we've got to understand that the psychology of money actually exists. Second, we must actively observe why rich people think differently. Third, we have to discover those specific mindset patterns, really digging them up and bringing them into the light. And fourth, we must identify the separation between the builders and everyone else. We aren't just looking at a statement here. We're looking at a literal set of instructions. It's challenging us to actively transition from standard, default thinking into this highly active framework of wealth building.
Which brings us to Section 4, rethinking your financial mindset. Which side are you on? So we've decoded the concepts, we've outlined the Great Divide, and we've identified the core directives. But let's be real, information without application is really just trivia. The ultimate purpose of an explainer like this is to prompt some real self-reflection. What's super interesting here is how we now have to turn this whole thing inward. To truly utilize this information, you have to discover the mindset patterns currently operating within yourself. You literally have to audit your own thoughts. When you face a financial decision, do your thoughts align with those active, intentional builders, or do they kind of echo the default, passive mindset of everyone else? At the end of the day, you're the only one who can decode your own internal operating system. And that brings us to our final lingering thought. Are your money mindset patterns building wealth or keeping you with everyone else? The concepts we've analyzed today make one thing abundantly clear. There is no neutral ground here. Your thoughts are either actively constructing your financial future or they are tethering you to the status quo. The separation has been identified. The psychology has been completely decoded. The only thing left to determine is what you will choose to build with it. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. Keep analyzing, keep discovering, and I'll see you next time.